Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar with RSM, Fuel Your Ambition, Exploring Careers in Professional Services. This afternoon, we're joined by Aaron and me from RSM, who are going to be sharing a little bit about exploring careers at RSM. If you have any particular questions, please use the question function at the bottom right. Enter all your burning questions throughout the webinar, and we'll try to answer them towards the end. And if you'd like to show your appreciation, please use the chat tab as well. So I'm just going to pass on over to Aaron to kick things off. Thanks, Aaron.
Fab, thanks Nahal, and thank you to Target Jobs for giving us this opportunity to speak with you guys this afternoon. As Nahal said, this is an insight into RSM, but also the professional services sector. So Neve and I will be going through a bit of an insight into the firm, just for you to understand the different service lines that we've got as well. But just as an introduction, so as I said, we've got Neve and myself here. So my name is Aaron Bostock. I work in early careers at RSM in the outreach and engagement team. I've been at the firm for about a year and 10 months now. So I joined last year in February 2024. My role primarily involves working alongside our offices in the Northwest and in London and our advertising partners such as Target Jobs to support any outreach and engagement related activities. So things like careers fairs, insight sessions, any bespoke engagements as well. And I will let Neve introduce herself in,
Thanks, Aaron.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Neve Gillard. I am an assistant manager in the private client tax team in London. I have been at RSM for 4 years now, I believe. So when I've started with RSM when I first graduated in the summer of 2021. My role mainly involves the preparation and reviewing of self-assessment tax returns and also preparing tax advisory reports for clients. And I kind of specialize in high net worth individuals, C-suite executives being CEOs, COOs, and CFOs. And mainly we're focusing on succession planning, estate planning as well, and cash flow planning.
Fab, thanks, Neve. And as Nahal said, if you've got any questions that you want to ask either of us just throughout the session, please just feel free to put them into the chat. We do have some time at the end for some questions, and later on we'll get to hear a little bit more about Neve's day to day and her involvement at the firm, and where we can answer some questions as well. But I guess just as an introduction, so we wanted to touch upon our service lines and just give a bit of context into RSM in the UK, but also in a global position as well. We'll then hear from Neve, as I've just mentioned, just a little bit more about her role at the firm. We're then going to touch upon our different early careers programs, and we've got a couple of hints and tips in terms of how to apply to our programs in application processes. And then we've got some time for a Q&A at the end. But just as to start off with, I know we've just introduced where ourselves, but if you could just pop in the chat where you're dialing in from, so where you're located in the country, it's just always good for us to understand who we're speaking to. Newcastle, Sheffield, Dublin, Milton Keynes, Portsmouth, Liverpool. Right, so a good vast amount of locations there. Fab. Thank you everyone for putting that in. I don't think I mentioned it, but I'm based up in Manchester. So I don't think anyone's down in from Manchester. I think the most north we've got is probably the Dundee or maybe actually St Andrews. Yeah, but I'm in the northwest in Manchester as well, but travel quite frequently to our other offices around the country as well. So just wanted to highlight kind of RSM's position in the UK if you're already familiar with us or if you hadn't heard of us. So we've got offices in every region, as I've just mentioned, ranging from Aberdeen all the way down to Southampton as well. We operate as a national team across the whole of the UK. We have grown significantly over previous years, and there's been plenty of opportunities for internal development, but also bringing in new clients and new business as well. So on the screen, we've just got a few examples of the number of people and partners that we do have at the firm. Each year, we do recruit hundreds of people onto our early careers programs. So we look to take about 600 people every summer, year on year into the firm. We also do hire people externally, so whether they come in partway through their qualification or whether they've part qualified or qualified, sorry. So a real good opportunity for the firm to grow as well. But we operate in the middle market, so we're a mid-tier firm, so just a little bit outside of the big four, if you've heard of them. We're, I think, operating at number six, alongside your likes of BDO and Grant Thornton. Um, yeah, so that's our position within the UK. We don't just operate within the UK, though. We do also operate on a global scale. So we have offices in most major countries across the globe, which I think one thing I wanted to highlight here was that it just creates such an opportunity for international secondments and chances to travel and to take your role wherever you might want it to, not just in the UK. So I'll come on to this a little bit later in terms of the support that we offer to our people. But one opportunity that we do offer is once you are qualified, if you've performed well, you can go and do, let's say, 12 months in Australia. We do get a lot of people going international and then returning back to the firm in the UK a year after they've got that experience. I think from a client perspective as well, it really highlights that we're able to offer our services around the globe. So not just within the UK, but also across the world. We have loads of different teams in each different country that can offer services. So it's a really good way for us just to build up our client network as well, and just continue to grow the business globally. Now, we specialize in audit, tax, and consulting. Now, we'll hear a little bit more about tax when Neve just gives a bit more of an insight into her day to day. These are our kind of three main service lines, and what we've got on the screen here is just descriptors of each service line. They aren't in order, but I just wanted you guys just to pop in chat which number you think is related to each service line here. I'll just give you a minute or so just to read through those different descriptors. So what do we think the first box is describing? Do we think that's audit, tax, or consulting? First answer coming through is consulting. Another consulting. I won't give the answers away just yet, just so that might give it away for the rest. Yes, thanks, Nahal. If you'd like to submit a vote on the poll as well. What do we think number 2 is describing?
Got a couple coming in as tax.
Hmm. And what do we think the third one? Yeah, audit, audit. Okay, perfect. So from the looks of those who've responded, yeah, that's correct. So number 1 is describing consulting. So quite a large service line at the firm. And one that I'm still, trying to get my head around myself because we've got 6 main solutions in there, which range from business transformation, risk and governance, financial function support. But basically, it's a lot of advisory work and trying to help our clients do the most that they can with our business. So that could be with deal services, mergers and acquisitions as well. It's a really vast area of the business. There's loads of different opportunities within this service line within each different subsection as well, that they're all different. So even though it's just kind of one wider service line, each team does operate differently in the services that they offer as well. Number two is describing tax. That is correct. I won't go into too much detail about this service line because we'd rather hear from the expert Neve in a few moments about tax. But number three, yes, that is correct as well. That is also audit. So here, auditors typically are looking to assess whether a company, what they're stating in their financial statements, is a true and fair representation of their financial position. So they'll often go on site just to investigate different assets, invoices. They'll do testing of samples, etc. A bit more like it says here of a detective for the company. So just assessing whether what they've stated is true and fair. Now, I wanted to touch upon our values that are really essential to what we have at the firm. So these are our 5 core values, and I won't speak necessarily through all of them, but I will highlight 2 which I think are really important at RSM. So the first one being respect. One thing that I've definitely found is that we do pride ourselves on the respect that we show to others. And we treat everyone with the same level of respect, regardless of whether they're a client, colleague, or stakeholder. And I really believe this underpins all the work that we do at the firm as well. It's how we get the most out of one another as individuals. We're very big on bringing our whole selves to work, so that value is integral there. We, like I just said, it's the how we get the most out of people coming into the office. Another one I wanted to highlight as well was teamwork. And here it's something that I've personally felt in terms of the support that we offer one another. And we have a real collaborative culture at the firm, not even just within our own teams, but also across teams. Neve and I are in completely separate teams, but have had the chance to work together on multiple different engagements, and also being based in different offices as well. So Neve being based down in London and me up in Manchester hasn't been a hindrance to us working together. And we find that not just in this example, but also across the country as well. It also speaks back to how we get the most out of our team as well. It's playing to each other's strengths and maybe other areas that someone might not be as strong as someone else at. I know within my team, there's people that do reporting a lot better that I might do, but then there's other areas that I might be able to pick up that might not be as strong for them. And together, it creates like a synergy for us to provide an excellent service to the business. These values, all 5 are here, are integral to everything that we do. That's including our behaviour, attitude, work ethic, and we do carry these values wherever we go, whether that is on site at a client's, whether it's working remotely at home, it's within the office, or it's out representing the firm at a careers event or externally at an institution. Coming on next, just wanted to highlight the support that we do offer to our people. I do really feel as though the firm is a people first firm. It truly values that the employees that we've got here, and we support everyone and want them to do the best within their career, whether they're here for just a short few years or whether they're here for a long time and see the whole career through here. We want them to feel supported. We would say that they are our greatest asset. And speaking from my experience working within the people team, our aim is to ensure that everyone is supported. We have so much support available at RSM to support you with not just your personal, but also your professional development. And for example, we've got a fantastic employee assistance program, which ensures that you're supported in all aspects of your life, whether this is in work or at home. So, for example, we have access to an app called Wisdom, where we get 24/7 access to playlists and wellbeing podcasts, along with having the ability to speak to trained professionals, which is completely separate from our role, but something that we just get access to. Now, we do appreciate it's really daunting starting an early careers program at quite a big company and a big firm. But as a trainee, you'll have regular check ins with your manager to discuss your goals and see what opportunities are available to you. We do also operate a mentor scheme at the firm, whereby you can choose from a range of different colleagues from within the firm. They don't have to be from the office or the service line that you've applied to, but they can help support you with certain skills that you might want some additional guidance on. So, for example, if you're looking to increase your presentation skills or you want to manage your time a bit better, you can seek out a mentor to meet with and track that mentorship as well on our internal platform. On a more informal side, we do have a buddy system. So you'll be paired with someone who's typically 12 months ahead of you when you do start, and you are put in touch with them before you join the firm, and they'll reach out to you. So you've got a familiar face for when you join. They're there to answer any smaller queries that you might have and just be kind of a friendly, familiar face for when you join. They're likely to be in the office and the service line that you've applied to as well. So they should be around to support you. Now, touching upon inclusion, and I know Neve will probably speak a little bit about this in a few moments, but we understand that this is a growing concern for students, and especially with the political climate that we're in, it's as more important as it's ever been before. And this is one of the things that really attracted me to the firm, and I do really feel that it's such an inclusive culture that we have here. We have a range of different internal networks. I am a champion in one of our networks, which is called Prism. So that is our LGBT champion. And essentially, we run our own events and we do different initiatives. So we'll write blog posts, for example, about significant days throughout the year. It's been a really good way to us also collaborate with other members of the team across the country as well, and different offices. So just coming back to that point of us operating on a global and national scale, sorry. In terms of the different socials that we offer, this will differ depending on what service line you're in and what office that you're in. But for example, in Manchester last Christmas, the people team, we all went for a Christmas meal together, which was a really nice way for us to just get outside of the office and just meet a bit more in an informal nature. Earlier this year, the Manchester office actually threw, a summer social at the end of the financial year, and we've recently done an RSM quiz local in the city centre as well, which is all just fantastic ways for us to meet different members of the team and feel like we're part of one big firm. From a charity perspective, we get a volunteering day per year. So alongside annual leave, we also get a dedicated day to take back and just support with a charity of our choice. Each office will also be partnered with an, oh, sorry, one second, I just need to take some water. Apologies, everyone, not the most professional, just got something stuck in my throat when I was speaking then. So Manchester have partnered with Andy's Man Club, so we will do different social activities throughout the year, which will raise money for. So each year we volunteer a charity of choice that's chosen by the business. And I'm actually using my charity day in a few weeks to go and volunteer at a local farm to work with disabled children. So it's a really rewarding way for us to give back to the local community as well, and something that the firm is very supportive of us doing. Now, I wanted to pass over to Neve now just to give a bit of an introduction into what her role entails. I know we got a brief introduction at the beginning of the webinar, but just for us to go into a little bit more depth about Neve's role in the firm. So I will pass over to you, Neve.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Yeah, so hi everyone. As I've already said, I'm Neve. I am an assistant manager in the London office in private client tax. And I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of my career so far since graduating, and where I started and where I am today at the firm. So I graduated from the University of the West of England in Bristol in the summer of 21, and then also joined RSM's graduate scheme that summer too. I joined in their Bristol office as an assistant in the private client tax team there. When I first started, I'd say my role was mainly focused on the preparation of self-assessment tax returns for individuals, partners, directors, high net worth individuals as well. So if we're with private client, it's mainly focused on looking at individuals. So it could be very large individuals within a company, but we're always focusing on the individual tax aspect there rather than, for instance, the company tax aspect there. That would be more of a corporate tax department situation. And as a lot of you may know, when you go usually into kind of the accounting and tax area of the world, usually you end up having to do qualifications. So you have to do exams to become qualified. So that could be becoming a chartered tax advisor or a chartered accountant. For me, I did examinations to become a chartered tax advisor, and this revolved me completing ATT examinations and CTA examinations over a 3-year period. So I just kind of wanted to give you a rundown of what that experience was like for me. So after starting in August 21, I sat my first 2 ATT papers in May 2022 and luckily passed both of them. And I then went on to take my final ATT paper, because there's 3 in total, in May 23, and also luckily passed that one as well. I then actually decided that as much as I loved Bristol, I wanted to go to the big smoke and move to London. I think it was always just something that I was always intrigued with, and I knew that the clientele would be different in London because you just have a much broader variety of clients, and that was something that I really wanted to get involved in and see what that was like. So I moved there in September. Then in October 23, I got promoted to an associate, so an assistant to an associate, and that was the result of passing my ATT examination, so now being ATT qualified, and also the work that I was doing. Then after October, in November, I then sat my first CTA exam, which was, I have to say, a massive jump compared to the ATT examinations. It was really hard. Fortunately, I did pass after months of revision, and then it was moving on to the next ones. So moving into then May 2024, I sat my final 2 CTA examinations, and this was a really big challenge because it was the first time I was sitting the CTA exams, 2 CTA exams at the same time. They're really heavy exams, and it was quite stressful. I luckily passed one, but did fail the other one. And the one I failed was a kind of case study examination where you were given a large amount of client information, and the client had asked you a series of questions and needed advice on certain things. And you had to basically work out everything the client wanted from you, create a report from it, and write up that report for the client. Now, as someone who is dyslexic, this was my worst nightmare. I've always loved maths. I'm not a massive person when it comes to words. So yeah, it was always a really tricky exam for me, but luckily I got to do it again. So I retook it in November 2024. Now, unfortunately, I did actually fail this again, so this was a second time. I'm not trying to throw you off, but it is sometimes the reality of taking these exams. It's quite normal for people to fail them, and I worked really hard, but fail that, unfortunately. Luckily, the firm gave me a discretionary retake, and I was able to do it again. And luckily, by May 2025, I resat that final exam and passed. I was then promoted to an assistant manager and became a qualified chartered tax advisor. And I would probably say, since that point and where my kind of job is now outside of the exams, I now specialize in high net worth individuals and C-suite executives. I mainly focus on completing advisory reports with a focus on wealth reports, looking at succession planning, and kind of having a holistic approach to looking at their financial situation and trying to find the most tax efficient ways to reduce their tax liabilities throughout their lifetime, as well as on death. I no longer really prepare returns at all. I'm now kind of reviewing those types of returns and looking at much more kind of complex tax matters with my clients as well. And then I guess just kind of some additional bits about me. So along with doing my exams, I also did an apprenticeship, and that involved kind of mainly focusing on doing soft skill kind of case study work, as well as doing some computer-based exams, which focused on things like law, ethics, and accounting. And they were really just things to really get you into the loop of kind of the corporate world and making sure you really understood your job, but also the ethical sides to your job that are slightly separate to maybe what you see on a day-to-day basis. I'm also the head of our Embrace group in London. So that was a similar group that Aaron was sharing about Prism, whereas Embrace has a focus on diversity and inclusion within the workforce. And we really kind of try to emphasize and celebrate the diversity within our workforce and making sure everyone feels included and welcome at all times. And again, this involves having internal celebrations for things such as Eid, for Black History Month as well, and making sure that we're really having celebrations within the workforce, making people really aware of the different events that are going on throughout the year. Yeah, and that's also kind of really focused into as well when we look at things like recruitment, the staff that are coming into our firm as well, and making sure that we're truly trying to meet the local and national demographic when it comes to the different ethnicities that we have within the UK as well. And I think that's everything at the moment. Could be here a bit longer if I wanted to, but I think that's enough for now. Oh, I can't hear you, Aaron.
Hello, that
There we
working
go.
now?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
thanks, Neve. No, that was fantastic. I think a really good visual that we've got on the screen and a really good story to hear of someone who's joined on one of our early careers programs and then progressed all the way through. I mean, it doesn't, it goes without saying that it's not, it's a feat to have passed those exams. They are very challenging, and you've done absolutely amazingly to get to the position that you're in now. So I guess I just wanted to ask you, how do you find preparing for professional qualification studying alongside full-time work? I know it's difficult, but how did you find that balance?
I would say, yeah, it is really, really challenging. And I think everyone will look at it a bit differently. I think as someone who has been dyslexic from a young age, I've always learned that I had to work a little bit harder than other people. And so I think even my experiences at A levels and at university, I always really like knuckled down and created a really good sufficient plan on how I was going to revise, and sometimes would go a bit OTT with it as well. But I think because I had that mentality going into working full time and revising, it was still a massive challenge, but I think that organization I already had was there. I think you really do have to give up a lot of your time and really focus in. I think it's not the same as university again or A levels where you've still got that kind of spare hours within the day. This is truly, you are working a full-time job and then going home and having to revise and having to be really, really strict with your time. And trying to keep a work-life balance can be difficult. It's completely doable, but it can be very difficult. And yeah, you have to be really strict with your time and really, really disciplined, because these are some of the hardest exams you'll ever take in your life, really. And I think that's also to do with the fact that you are working full time at the same time as it. um, but I think as long as as long as you're organized, you're smart with your time, you make sure you still have a good work-life balance where you maybe go to the gym or do some sports or see your friends, then it's completely doable. um yeah.
Fab, no, definitely. And I know you've spoken a bit about, the day-to-day that your role involves, but what was it that made you choose working within tax? Was there something in particular that really attracted you to that service line?
So I did an accounting and finance degree at university, and I really enjoyed accounting from a practical matter when I was the one doing it and creating all of the formulas and so forth. But I didn't like it from an actual work environment. So I did a placement year in my third year at university for a local firm in Bristol, and I spent half of that year in accounting and half of that year in private client tax. And I just didn't get on with accounting at all, really. It didn't fascinate me kind of the way it did at uni, whereas I really, really enjoyed tax and I found it was really interesting. And I've always met a lot of people that said to me, tax is like Marmite, you either love it or hate it. And when you do love it, it is something that's a great career to go into. And I think I've always loved learning. I've always liked the concept of just continuously learning on the job and really always kind of stimulating your brain. And I've always felt that I've been able to do that within something like my job role. And I knew
Mhm.
there's great career prospects as well for you, and that was why.
Fab, no, definitely. And I know we've probably got some people listening this afternoon who are considering what their career choices, might be post studying or not sure. It's absolutely fine to know what you want to do. If you could give Neve, your younger self, some advice, talking to maybe yourself back at university, maybe in first year or second year, do you have one piece of advice that you would give yourself, knowing that you're in the position you are in now?
Um, oh yeah, I'd
I know it's a
say
tricky question.
I would say that the advice I would have for when you're moving into the workforce would be never let a job ruin your mental or physical health. Really make sure you give yourself a great work-life balance. And working hard is one great thing, but I think it's something that's really new to people, and it takes them a while to really learn what to say yes to and what you should say no to as well. So I really think really make sure you look after yourself. I'd say be proactive with everything in your life, be confident with everything in your life. If you want something, go for it. I think when you're up, I think until the end of university, your whole life has been determined by your grades, and your success has been determined by your grades. And I think when you go to when you go to into a workforce, you truly realize that no one really cares about what you did as a degree. It's much more about those soft skills. It's about your work ethic. It's about how you can communicate with people, and how you rise to a project. It's not really that often to do with, oh, they went to this university or they got this degree, for instance. So I think really be strong on your strengths, understand your weaknesses, be really proactive with your time and organized, and go into work confident and ready to learn, and really start trying to build on those softer skills and learning how to build relationships, because that, I think, truly is the key to success in the workforce.
Fab, thanks, Neve. And yeah, I absolutely would echo that. And I think, you guys who are all on this afternoon are making that huge step into listening to things like this that employers put on. There's loads of stuff out there for you to just gain different insights into different sectors as well and just have an understanding. So yeah, it's great to see you all being proactive and dialing in as well. I can see just a couple of questions coming in, which we will have some time at the end. So we'll move on for now and we can come back to them towards the end of the session. But I think Nee's points there lead quite nicely on to how we would, some advice that we would give you to how we would prepare for our applications, because it, like Eve was saying, it isn't just solely now about grades and where you studied. It's more about kind of those people and soft skills that you can bring to a role and that are going to make you stand out in an application process. So just to start off with that, one thing that we assess in our application process is engagement. So when I say engagement, I just want you to think, what does that mean? How could I stand out in an application process by being engaged? What kind of characteristics do you think we're meaning there? So just pop them in the chat, some examples that you think can demonstrate a high engagement. Interpersonal skills, yeah. Have we got a couple more responses? Active listening, yeah, fantastic. Being present, yeah, absolutely. See, there's a couple of the people are typing, so we'll just wait for a couple more. Camera on, yeah, fantastic. Taking initiatives, fantastic. Yes, thanks everyone. All definitely signs of high engagement. So just here on the screen, we can just see what signs of engagement are and maybe signs of lesser engagement. So in our application process, very similar to other firms and businesses, it's not just about what you're saying, but it's also how you're saying it. So how you're coming across in an application process. Um, our process is, we actually screen our applications, and obviously when you get to a live interview, you are sat in front of someone, and they'll be assessing things like your body language, eye contact with the camera or the interviewer, your tone of voice, and your use of spontaneous examples as well. So all things that are going to show high engagement and going to really demonstrate your authentic and personable self. We're not necessarily looking for experience in our program. Sorry, we're looking for potential. So having things, phrases like "I love," "I am really passionate about," is going to really show the potential that you've got as well. I do understand interviews and application processes are quite a nerve-wracking part of applying to a role, and I do know that a lot of these kind of characteristics can become a little bit weaker when you're in a process. But that's why we just wanted to offer some general advice here that we'll run through in the next few minutes, just to help prepare you best for these stages. But yeah, thank you for sharing those examples, all very in line with signs of what we would class as a high engagement when applying to a role. So one thing I wanted to touch upon was the STAR technique, and you might have heard of this, you might not have done. So we'll just talk through this now. So STAR standing for situation, task, action, and result. It's a very kind of generic technique to answer an interview questions, but it's it's known because it works. So I wanted to touch through an example from my own personal career journey, just to kind of help bring it to life. So I've been presented with a question about a deadline being brought forward. The interview wants to understand how I would manage that deadline. So they're looking to assess my time management, my resilience, potentially some teamwork and communication skills. So previously, I worked within a car finance business. So that would be the situation. The context was that I used to process applications, get them into financial lenders, get them sent to our banking team, so that we could send money to dealerships for customers to collect a vehicle. A customer wanted to collect the vehicle sooner than was anticipated. So what I needed to do was to get everything into the financial lender for approval. So that was my goal, to get everything in so the customer could collect the vehicle on time. Bearing in mind it's 4 p.m. in the day now, our last payment run was at 6 p.m. So I needed to get it across to the lender and back to us, and then everything over to the dealer in the next last few hours of the day. This meant I did have to reorganize my workload to ensure that this customer was prioritized. So all at the same time, dealing with different applications, queries from the team, customers ringing in. Um, what I did was would get everything sent into the lender. I would then follow up with the lender to request that they prioritize this customer. One motivation for me, so coming to the action point, was providing a good customer service and knowing that I'd helped an individual get a vehicle when they needed to. If we think about what having a car can do to someone and how much easier it can make someone's life, it could have been a parent trying to get children to school, it could have been someone trying to get to work, or they were making a large road trip the next day. So that was kind of the motivation, like knowing that you would have alleviated some anxieties from someone's life as well, and provided that good customer service. The result was that the finance was fortunately paid on the same day and the customer was able to collect the vehicle the following morning. Now, to tie that back in the reflection piece, so I would talk through that example and then demonstrate the resilience, time management, and organizational skills. So, whilst interview questions don't always ask for examples necessarily, it's always beneficial to bring one in. These don't necessarily have to come from a professional capacity, but they could also come from things like extracurricular activities, sports teams, or musical bands as well. Just because if you're talking about the potential you've got for a certain skill, it's always going to come across better if you're able to exemplify that you've demonstrated that skill in the past. Now, preparing for the day as well. So, we understand that there's a lot of research that you can do about roles and businesses, and it can be quite overwhelming. Which is why I just wanted to highlight you don't necessarily need to go in knowing absolutely everything about a company and everything about a role, especially within early careers programs. We don't look, like I said, we don't look for people with experience or specific backgrounds and with their degrees or their subjects. But we would advise that you just have a good understanding about the business that you are applying to and how you're going to add value into that business. So I would say pick something out about the company that stands out to you. So for me, it was RSM's focus on D&I, as I've touched upon previously, and their internal networks. And this was something that I was able to do some research on beforehand, have a look around, and I drew upon this during my interview. And it really showed the interviewer that you wanted to be at this business for a specific reason as well. Also, understanding your own skills and strengths. It's fine to not be an absolutely excellent candidate at every single skill. Linking back just to the points that I mentioned about teamwork, knowing that there's probably going to be some skills that you could improve, that's absolutely fine. I've had some interviews before and been asked a question about what maybe might be my weakest skill and something that I'm wanting to improve. It's not necessarily there to see what your weaknesses are. It's just for you to understand yourself a little bit about what your skills and your strengths are. And you can kind of play to these skills and the strengths in the interview as well. So having a good understanding about how the attributes that you have would fit the job description. So just understand you know what the job description is outlining. What are its key responsibilities? What kind of work are you going to get involved with? And engagements such as these and going speaking with employers at careers events or going into their offices are going to give you much more of an understanding about what roles entail as well. And just a few things to remember here. So professionalism was one thing I wanted to highlight. I think we're moving away from this narrative that to be professional, you need to be, really, really smartly dressed all the time. You need to kind of always have a professional language. Whilst it is important to dress appropriately in an interview and in application processes, it's also about, how you kind of carrying yourself with your personality as well. And you can also still be professional whilst also maintaining your personal brand. When we talk about personal brand, I'm referring to your authentic you. So we're looking for people to be themselves. That's how we get the most out of the talent in the business. Introducing yourself and having a relaxed body language is going to be really beneficial as well. So when you are, at a careers event, just go up and introduce yourself to someone. Tell them what your aspirations are, what kind of queries that you've got. Let's not forget that everyone has been in this situation. I remember being at university and having no idea what direction I wanted to take after studying. But just to go up and ask those questions is going to be really beneficial for you to get an understanding about all the different roles that we've got as well. Now, I just wanted to hand this over back to you guys. So we've got a couple of different scenarios that I'm going to present that we're going to look at, and you just need to select which main skills do you think are needed in this situation. So they'll pop up in the poll section when ready. So the first one is you are working on an audit for a client with a tight deadline, and your team members all have different areas of expertise. You've got to pull a lot of information together quickly to make sure you've delivered the final report on time. What main skills do you think are needed here using the poll function? Yeah, I can see some answers coming in. Yeah, fantastic. Time management, teamwork, and communication. You've got a tight deadline, so you might have to reorganize some of your other activities and objectives. You've got to work with the team to understand, what your strengths are, maybe what you need to drop and what your weaknesses are. So there's going to be elements of communication there as well, which naturally ties into teamwork. It's not just a solo project that we're working on. So Fab, thank you for responding. The next scenario we're going to look at. So your team has been asked to present to a client. You have the data, but it's technical and you need to make it clear and compelling for them to understand. You've also got to prepare for any questions that they might ask. What main skills do you think are needed in this scenario? Yeah, fantastic. Communication, problem solving, and attention to detail, definitely. So attention to detail, because this data is quite technical, but we need to make it clear and understandable for the client, because they might not be, we're the experts and we need to present this to them in a clear way. Communication, because you're going to have to deal with your team and working with your team to ensure this is all done to the appropriate standard. And having the right attention to detail is going to be important too, because we need to unpick this technical detail and make it as clear as possible. So we want to ensure we're not missing anything that might be essential for this project. And coming on to the final scenario. So a client is unhappy with the initial results of a project and they're worried about meeting their goals. We've got to understand their concerns, produce a possible solution, and maintain a good relationship with them, also while resolving the issue. What key skills do you think are needed in this scenario? Yeah, fantastic. So it's premium or customer service, resilience, and conflict resolution. So we need to understand that regardless of whatever the client's needs are, we need to understand that they're heard, they're hearing us. We've got to understand their concerns as well, whilst producing a possible solution. So understanding that we might potentially have a little bit of conflict down the line if we're not able to meet that, but managing that with the client as well. There's always going to be times you hear from the service lines when they might have a difficult interaction with a client. We have our own deadlines and they have their own. But knowing that we're there to support them and provide them a good service is going to be is integral to the work that we offer as well. Now, I just wanted to touch upon the programs that we offer at the firm. So, within early careers, looking at what we offer in our undergraduate space, we have our graduate route, our placement programs, and our summer internships. So, as Neve mentioned, coming onto the graduate program, which is our largest program, and we offer within audit, tax consulting, and digital for people to come into the firm either in January or September for those who've got an honours degree. They'll typically do a professional qualification alongside full-time work, and you'll join in a larger cohort. It is almost like going back to university, and you're given loads of support by our talent development team in your first few months at the business as well. Regarding our placement and summer internship opportunities, so these are for students who are currently studying an undergraduate degree. Our placement programs run for 12 months. So when your degree has a 12-month industrial placement, you can come into the firm and do 12 months with us. You won't do any tuition just because obviously you're still a student at university. But if you perform well, like in the internship, we can offer you a returning graduate position for the following summer. So we've had a lot of placement students and interns who've just left in the past few months. And if they've performed well, they'll be returning to us in September 2026. Our entry requirements to be eligible for these programs then. So we look for 112 UCAS points across three A levels or BTECs. We do also accept other qualifications that you can convert your qualification into the correct UCAS points as well. Typically across A levels, that is two Bs and a C. We would also need a predicted or an obtained honours degree to be eligible to our programs as well. No specific grade or subject for those qualifications. And just in response to the government's increase in the apprenticeship threshold salary a couple of years ago, we do offer sponsorship in certain locations such as London and Chelmsford, but you would need a permanent right to live and work in the UK to be eligible for our programs as well. Now, I wanted to touch upon our application process to link it quite nicely back to what we were just speaking about in terms of preparing for applications and those softer skills. So the main bit where this is going to be necessary is I'm going to talk from stage 3 onwards, which is the video responses. So a few of you might be familiar with these, might have heard of these before, but this is where you'll get a few minutes to prepare an answer and then record the answer. It will be specific to the service line that you've applied to. And it was basically a chance for us to understand you a little bit better. They are all screened by the team, so they're not monitored by AI. They are all watched by the team. And here, this is where we're looking for those points of high engagement, such as increased expressiveness in your voice, use of spontaneous examples, effective body language as well, and making sure that you've got eye contact with the camera. If you've not done something like this before, we do have some resources to support with this on our preparation hub, which I'll touch upon in a few moments. But I'd also recommend just having a few mock questions and record yourself on your phone and just speaking to the screen, because I do think speaking into yourself in the screen, it creates an uncomfortability which you might have everything you want to say, but as soon as you hit record, it's almost like your brain evaporates from your head. Having been through this process myself, I know it can be very uncomfortable and difficult. And this isn't too dissimilar to what other businesses and firms, the styles that they offer. So I would just say to be as best prepared as possible. And remember that this is an opportunity for you to showcase yourself. It's not necessarily there to trick you out. It's okay to stumble upon words. You don't have to talk for the full 2 minutes as well. Just to echo that point at the assessment centre too, is that the assessors are there to use to get the most out of the assessment centre. You get to ask questions and learn a bit more about the firm and the service line as well. In my assessment centre, my Wi-Fi dropped out for about 15 minutes. Had a bit of a panic, worried that I'd absolutely messed it up. But the assessor was really supportive and just gave me 10 minutes, just told me to grab a glass of water, and it made no detriment to my application at all. So when we say, linking back to the professional point, you can still have elements of professionalism whilst working through this process as well, and just reminding yourself that it's okay, we're all human. We're just looking for that potential and those strengths in the softer skills as well. Now, the platform that I was just referring to, where there's loads of different support, is our employability hub, which outlines information about our application process in more detail than I've just touched upon. Interview guidance, all our different pathways and programs. So, for example, the pathway that Neve came on, there's information about that pathway in there alongside all of our other service lines. And there's also our preparation hub, where you can go and do practice assessments before you do the real application as well. That is linked on this next slide here. It's easily accessible from our career site, but if you wanted to scan that QR code now, it will take you to our employability hub, and that is where you can find our roles as well. There's also a section on frequently asked questions. So if you've got a question, it's likely going to be linked there as well, where you can find the answer. Now, I know we're just coming up to the 60-minute mark in a couple of moments, but I wanted to just give you an opportunity. If you wanted to enter your information into our system here, we can send some further information to you after this webinar later this week, just to offer some further guidance and offer a bit more of a tailored kind of pack, which will help you with your application as well. So just feel free, I'll leave that on the screen for a few moments just for you to scan that code if you'd like to just pop your information into our system just to register your attendance with us today. Now, as we just come up to having 5 minutes left, I wanted to say a huge thank you to listening in this afternoon. We could probably have spent 4 hours, couldn't we, Neve, of talking
Yeah.
about life at RSM and all the different opportunities that we've got. So I hope that's given you a bit of a flavour into what life is like within professional services, but also what an early careers programme might entail at RSM as well, and who we are as a business in terms of the support that we do offer to people. So we can answer some questions now as well if there are any that have come into the chat, or if anyone's got anything they wanted to ask myself or Neve. Just while we do that, I'll leave this QR code on the screen just so you've got that if you wanted to take a few moments to scan.
Aaron, shall I read out some of the questions that we've got so far that might be easier?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you.
So we have got one that says, does RSM offer consultancy services in sectors other than finance, particularly construction, urban planning or architecture? Not sure if we'd need to cut back on that one.
Yeah, we'd probably need to come back on that one. So I believe there are different teams that do offer consultancy, not solely just in finance. I know there's a team, one of my colleagues works within economic consulting, but they do a lot of work with charities, such as like homelessness, for example. So I would advise going onto our employability hub and going into the subsection to read that information. But you can always reach out to the team as well to ask any questions, and we can provide you with some further information too.
Bro, thanks, Aaron.
On
The
our
Oh, sorry.
I was just no, sorry, Neve. I was just going to say as well, we will also be hosting a series of insight events across our offices across the UK. So when you go to that employability hub in our careers site, there is an events page section where you can register information to come to one of those events. So in the Northwest, we've got them in Liverpool, Manchester, Stoke, and we've got them in Newcastle as well. We'll have one in Edinburgh, and other locations down south too. So they're just free events for you to come into, just to speak and network with people from the business.
Bro,
Sorry, Neve.
that's okay. We've got a query from Mohammed, and he has asked, is there internship opportunity for postgraduates as well?
So thanks, good question. At the moment, we're not entirely sure what that's going to look like for next year. Is service line dependent. They will open in January, those internships for summer. At the moment, they are for penultimate year undergraduate students. I know we have done them for postgraduates in the past, so I hope that helps answer that question. But more information will come out when those roles go live. I'd advise in the meantime registering in the interest for the internships, and then once live, that will be officially confirmed in the new year.
Bro, thank you. We've got another message from Gabor who's asked, the requirements mention an honour degree. I am doing a 3-year BACC in accounting course. Does that mean I don't qualify to apply for the graduate role RSM?
Yeah, no, you absolutely still qualify as well. We don't specify certain disciplines. So, as if you've got an honours degree, um, which I think is what you're asking, you are
Yeah.
eligible for our programs. Yeah, we don't accept any exemptions, though. Just one thing to mention. I know we get that question quite a lot. So everyone will still do the same exams. The only time we'd accept exemptions is if your course has been accredited by the ICAW, because you will have already had them on your training profile.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to double check the chat, see if any questions have come in there.
Is
Joel,
it suitable
is
for someone with an engineering degree? I don't mind going with that one.
Yeah.
So I would say one thing that I especially love is, although I'm someone who's come from an accounting and finance background and therefore quite relevant to my job, the majority of people I work with have not come from anything to do with finance. Someone who did my chartership at the same time as me did a degree in drama. Someone else did a degree in history. A person did it, I think it was English. We've had people do things like architecture. So it's you're starting off at the same point as everyone else. Although I might have been in the finance industry beforehand, that doesn't really give me a step up because everyone starts together. Your training starts at the same level for everyone. Your exams start at the same level. So it can be suitable for anyone who's really motivated and wanting to get involved into that department.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to echo what Neve said, there's people in this office who've done music, a lot
Yeah.
of psychology,
Yeah.
a lot of English. I know a lot of people who do law and psychology tend to go down the tax route as well. We do have quite a lot of engineers at the firm, to a lot of chemical engineers. So absolutely, they're open to everyone, regardless of that background.
Brilliant. We've got
And just
another. Sorry,
Yeah,
Aaron.
just saw that. No, it's okay. Sorry, just saw that last question come in. Did you mention that the internship application is going to be open in January? Yes, that's correct. Don't have a confirmed date as of yet, but they will be going live in January. On our career site, there is I can drop the link in the chat actually, if that would be helpful for everyone. But we have a register your interest page where you can find out some more information once they go live. So I'll just drop that in the chat now just before the end of this session, so you've got that easily accessible. There you go. But thank you everyone for listening
Oh,
in.
sorry, Aaron. We've just got one of it.
Oh,
Gabor said so. He said, I want to rephrase my question. I'm not doing an honour course with the degree that he's doing.
Oh,
It
okay.
was a BACC. I'm trying to remember what that is.
Yeah, I'd have to familiarise myself with that,
Yeah,
with what that is. If you any queries like that, you can reach out to the team to talk about eligibility. But there's also some more information when you reach out with them, a guidance on qualifications. All of our applications are pre-screened as well, so anything that wouldn't be eligible or is eligible would be picked up by the team. Sorry, I don't have the answer to that right at this moment, but hopefully that helps answer that question.
thanks, Aaron.
But yeah, thank you everyone for listening in this afternoon. Like I said a few moments ago, I hope that's given you a bit of an insight into RSM, and a huge thank you again to Neve and Nahal and the team at Target Jobs for giving us this opportunity.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Just a brief little outro, just to also thank all the students for joining us today and engaging so nicely with this webinar. And yeah, thank you, Aaron and Neve. It was a really insightful webinar. I really enjoyed listening in the background. So thank you so much for your time. If you all have any questions, you're also welcome to email events@targetjobs.co.uk and check out RSM on the Target Jobs website. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely weekend, and we hope to see you at a future webinar.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.